Like I mentioned last week, I would be going over one of those crazy winter 2022 seasonals today. While it may be nothing like what Redo of Healer was last winter, it's just as weird in its own right. The ranks of Taboo anime are filled with mire, and some have made quite the name for themselves. There are certain elements and things I want people to focus on in this video, so I won't spend a great deal of time babbling about sub-goals to you. But do remember the 500 by year end, and 1000 for the summer 2022 Anime Expo cosplay. This week's discussion is over World's End Harem, which airs every Friday at 21:30 Japan Standard Time. That's 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe. It's definitely an interesting way to end the week, but where this anime really shines, or I guess doesn't shine, is in its plot, but we'll get to that a little later. It's important to keep in mind that Japan has far more of an interest in the ecchi and harem genres than other countries do. It comes down to a difference in culture ultimately, but the Western world has certainly jumped aboard this train in recent years, especially with anime such as High School DxD and Data Live being so prominent, just to name a couple. Think about it. Why does Japan produce such a wide array of shows and media dedicated to enshrining that fan service element? Because it's popular. Now, more than ever, with the global COVID-19 pandemic, people have been granted more time for creativity, and what better time than now to really get into things? World's End Harem focuses squarely on the threat of a highly contagious, deadly virus that ravages the world in little time. Eerily similar to how fast COVID-19 spread worldwide in just about 3 months 2 years ago already. Most anime like World's End Harem have a censored and uncensored version. So far, I haven't seen any semblance of a censored version. Basically, this anime puts all it has to offer on the table in broad daylight for all to see. The story primarily follows Mizuhara Reito, who has just awoken from cold sleep. When he wakes, he quickly learns the world has changed considerably in the 5 years he was asleep. Every nation on Earth has been ravaged by a virus of unknown origin, known as the MK virus, Man Killer. Half of the world's population has been killed off. However, it's a curious find when Reito and a handful of other males discover the female population is immune. Desperate for a cure and some attention, the bar is pushed extensively. Reito and the other males are highly encouraged to mate in order to restore the world's population. However, all Reito wants is to find the one girl he loves, Tachibana Elisa. Through the fog of temptation, Reito sets out on a quest to find a cure and his love. After watching episode 2 a couple weeks ago, I felt there was a strong disdain towards the general male population. Understandable to a degree. The premise is incredibly odd and quite unlike anything we've ever seen come out of Japan, and there is some weird stuff out there. Who exactly centers an anime around a man-killing virus that wipes out all but 4 men globally? What's more is that nearly every female character is written to be this sex-starved creature that has no coherent thought other than getting in bed with a male. Recall that this anime was delayed from an early fall 2021 airing until just last month. I don't currently have any info on why, but it certainly looks like there was some unfinished work, but I'm not necessarily talking about the plotline. Now, this next bit might make your head spin a little bit when you think about it, but this anime is animated by Studio Gokumi and AXsiZ. Studio Gokumi is the studio behind the anime Yuki Yuna is a Hero, which is at the complete opposite end of the anime spectrum. To put it into perspective, Yuki Yuna is about magical girls. World's End Harem is about as far as you get from that. It's like trying to compare apples to oranges. Does this thing look like an apple to you? Recall that it's only been 5 years, so why is everyone so sex-starved? It makes for an interesting show, and thank God not everything is a sex scene regardless. Several of the male characters, which are already limited, are portrayed as these sex-hungry fiends that only want to sleep with attractive female partners. I feel like this is based off of the typical male stereotype that already gets a bad rap. So, where does this anime stand among its competitors? Anime like Kiss Sis, Yosuga no Sora, and, yes, Redo of Healer. It's hard to definitively place this anime in a number tier list since it is still airing, however, there's almost no doubt in my mind it'll make it on there somewhere. World's End Harem plays with questions relating to the human psyche, the id, ego, and superego. These Freudian elements are left for the viewer to form their own analyses and opinions on. Where does the viewer stand on consensual relationships if there are only a handful of men left worldwide? What about the human moral compass? Where does that come into play? Has Earth become a world full of sexual deviance, or is there a greater understanding yet to be had in this anime? Obviously, there are no easy answers here, but that's why this anime is set up in a way that allows the viewer to discover their own answers to these questions. This anime seems to be a sort of regression of humanity in a way as well, though. While the premise may have its popularity among fans of the genre, there is a clear divide on its actual storytelling ability. There are innumerable raunchy moments, and thankfully these are not given long blocks of time either. That same regression, however, plays directly into the human id as mentioned earlier. The id is the primary driver of human demand, gratification. It's an entirely unconscious thing, but it affects the conscious behavior of humans. This is where I believe the anime is trying to take things. World's End Harem is another take on the human id, but this time it focuses on the sexual and lustrous aspects of it. Think about how the anime Id Invaded developed its plotline and narrative. It spent more time trying to understand the collective unconscious rather than setting a story within the traditional realm of reality. To back up my claim on the same take regarding World's End, pay attention how the word mating is used. The word mating has a semi-negative connotation due to its association with, you guessed it, animals. Humans mate too, but it's a tad different and, for some, is more so about the gratification of desires than it is to create life. Mating, or having sex, is an animalistic desire and behavior. There's no getting around that. World's End Harem illustrates this best through the word mating, implying an almost devolution of humanity, and it isn't just the male characters either. Many of the female characters use the same word to imply the same sexual desire of gratification. Again, it's only been 5 years since the MK virus circulated around the globe, killing 99.9% of men, so what caused such a regression or devolution in human nature? This question likely won't be answered in this form, so that begs another question. Why did the creator of World's End Harem, the person or people who wrote the story, decide on such an extreme outcome, attempting to kill every man with a virus? What do you think? It certainly fits the bill for taboo anime, that's for sure. There are some obvious things that lend to the seemingly rushed nature of this anime, but I can't say the main idea is a bad one. Trying to discover a cure for a virus that only kills men. There's also the mystery of Tachibana Elisa and overall origin of the virus as well. Regardless, that's all I have for this video. Hopefully you found my brief analysis of some of the Freudian elements in this anime interesting and thought-provoking. If you did and you want to see more stuff like this, not overly sexualized H anime, then drop a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this interesting analysis of World's End Harem. I will see you all sometime next week with something brand new. Definitely look forward to it because it should be something pretty interesting.